Alright y'all, welcome back to the channel and to some more turkey patterning, and today we've got a very interesting combination to try out, and I have some sneaky suspicions that it's probably going to be a pretty nasty performer as well. Believe it or not, we're now into January, at least at the time of filming this. If you're watching it later on, that may be different obviously, but turkey season is going to start coming up pretty quick, so now is a good time to really start dialing in stuff and testing stuff and seeing what kind of combos are really going to perform. So I do have some decent hopes for today's combo that even just for a starting point here, we're going to be off to a really good start. But first up, for the shotgun and choke combo we're running, I brought out an old Mossberg 500. Technically, this is a 500A. It's just the older name for the standard Mossberg 500. Nothing different about it. This one is from the mid 80s era, I believe, but I have a modern 28-inch vent rib AccuChoke barrel on it. So we've got changeable chokes in the gun, and that's what's going to come into play here today. So now I've got a Mossberg 500 we can run for turkeys too, which I have not had in previous years, at least not in 12 gauge. And for the choke we're running, I actually happened to find one of these at a small town local shop for pretty cheap. This is a Mossberg X-Factor turkey choke. It's an extra full 670 constriction, and I did measure this choke. It is a legit 670. So a factory Mossberg choke that I've actually got some decent hopes for. Based on my previous experience and testing, when it comes to stock or factory turkey chokes, Mossberg is usually a pretty safe bet and one of the better performers for a stock choke. And I've heard decent things about these chokes on numerous occasions, so we'll see how it does. Before the loads I brought to run through it, we got to start with something that we absolutely know is going to be a good performer in of itself. We know how these do, that being the Winchester Longbeard XR shells. These ones are the 12 gauge, 3-inch, 1 7/8 ounce payload of 5s, moving about 1,050 feet per second. Very reliable shells, so in theory, this combo should perform pretty nice. But as for today's test, we're going to run it the same as we usually do. I've got the turkey target set up downrange at 40 yards and the chrono so we can get our velocity. So we'll get you guys a view of that target. We'll take our shot and we'll see how an old Mossberg 500 with an X-Factor 670 choke can do with what has proven to be a really good Longbeard XR loading. I've got good hopes for it, so let's take our shot and see what we get. All right, that combo gave us 1119 through the chrono. Boss claim is 1,050, but this is not at all unusual for what we've seen from those shells. If you've got a 26 or 28-inch barrel, you're going to be seeing a little bit over that boss claim, and low 1100s is perfectly fine for a lead number 5 turkey load. So very much normal velocity numbers up here, but let's check out our pattern and see how that combo performed downrange. Alright, so now we're down here at our 40-yard paper, and we definitely see some pretty interesting results here. Right off the bat, first things first, do we have a dead turkey? Yes, we do. There are 2 through the brain, and several more down the spine that would have done the job for sure. At 40 yards, this is a capable combination, for sure. However, you can immediately see, if you've seen any of our other testing, or have done your own testing with Longbeard shells, this isn't the usual pattern spread that we typically see. It's definitely quite a bit more broad, and a little bit less hot in the core area than what we typically see from them. I wouldn't call it a terrible pattern as for a turkey pattern in of itself, but it is not anything over the top great or special either. I definitely had high expectations for this combo, and I don't know that we lived up to it, especially knowing what those shells are capable of. So we'll move in here to our core area, and I think our pattern was pretty centered up overall, but the core in that 10-inch circle area on the turkey target is definitely a little bit thinner than what's around the edges of that turkey paper. You've got plenty of pellets there to do the job, but not really any kind of noticeably hot core at the same time. You do have a few voids, like right above that turkey's beak in the top right of that paper. That's definitely a noticeable one, as well as a little bit of a gap down in the bottom right corner there as well. So not perfectly even, and if we look around the edges, you can definitely see over here off the left and the top left, it does look hotter than what we have dead center on that turkey paper. You've got a nice clump up there in the top left of that turkey paper, but just a little bit inconsistent overall. We did string a few down here low as well, maybe starting to get into the flyer range, and that same trend kind of continues. The right edge of the pattern might be a little bit hotter than than what we see on the actual turkey paper as well. So looking at this pattern as a whole, I definitely had better expectations for it, that's for sure. If this is what I had, yeah, sure, I would absolutely turkey hunt with it. It's going to do the job to 40, but I'm not really impressed so far. Maybe the 1 3/4 ounce version of the Longbeard 5s might be the key here out of that particular choke. It is a 670. We've seen great results through both the 1 3/4 and the 1 7/8 ounce payload in chokes that are that constriction, a little tighter and a little more open previously. So I don't know on this one. That choke does have some porting as well, which usually with Longbeard shells isn't an issue at all, but I guess it is a little bit older school design of a choke, and they are a little bit newer design of a shell, so sometimes that can not play out in our favor. Either way, not exactly what I was expecting. Yes, it is good enough to 40 yards for a turkey hunt scenario all day long, but it is nowhere near as good as we usually see with Longbeard shells. So something is not quite the perfect combination here overall, but at least now we have a starting point to work off of with that particular choke. And obviously we'll try several other loads through it and we'll see how it continues to perform and if this continues to be a trend or not, with just more broad patterns and not perfectly even without any kind of super hot core area. So we'll see what happens as we continue to test it, but I was definitely hoping for a little bit better. And here's the wad from that shell. Very typical Winchester Longbeard stuff, but it looks like it got ran over by a lawnmower. So clearly, I think something got snagged up quite a bit with the porting of that choke. It's not anything over the top, it's just a few holes drilled around the side of it. Doesn't look any kind of different than most other regular chokes do today, but something here obviously didn't quite work out in our favor. And more than likely, this damage we see here has a good part to do with the pattern that we saw as well. You can see we definitely had some decent buffer material down there in the bottom. That's very typical for one of these Longbeard shells, but the damage on the other hand to this degree is not normal. So it's probably a case of potentially that big of a payload going through that particular choke and just not quite working out the way we hoped it would. But the wad, I think, definitely tells us a decent story here as to what happened today. Alright y'all, well, what did you think about that result right there? Not exactly what I was expecting to see, that's for sure. Usually, factory made or stock Mossberg turkey chokes are a pretty safe bet to get some nice solid patterns from. Usually with them, you don't need to go to an aftermarket choke with the vast majority of turkey loads. They are plenty good enough. So I had higher expectations than this, that's for sure. But this is why you test your combo with a bunch of different loads to see what performs well and what doesn't. Because I'm willing to bet if we fine tune the loading a little bit, maybe the 1 3/4 ounce Longbeard loads instead of these 1 7/8 might be the ticket here. I definitely think we can get way better performance from that shotgun and choke combination. This is the first test we've done with it, so at least if nothing else, now we have a baseline to work off of and we can move from here based on what we continue to see. So maybe a little bit of a disappointment today. It is still good enough to take a turkey with, but I definitely would like to see better out of it, that's for sure, and I think we can get that. So leave all your thoughts down below. Is that about what you expected to see? Were you a little surprised one way or the other? Do you have an old Mossberg with a Mossberg X-Factor choke? And if so, what kind of results have you seen from it? And what shells does it tend to like? And maybe what other shells do you want to see me run through that combo that you think might be good performers? And just overall, is this a combo that you would use out on a turkey hunt? Or are you like me and would like to see the pattern a little tighter, a little more condensed, and a little more even, at least throughout the core area? Let me know all that down below. But with that being said, I've got some more testing to get done for you guys, so I'm going to get back to it. As always, you have the channel Instagram as well as the mailbox where you can send stuff if you'd like. All the information will be in the description if you're interested in it, but I'm going to get back to it, so I'll see y'all in the next one.